Okay, so I'm making a pretty formal video now for those who are seeking out how to care for baby squirrels. Now, I can only speak how to care for baby squirrels from, let's say, 6 weeks old, when their eyes have been fully opened, because I haven't cared for squirrels younger than that. Albeit I would think the food principle is pretty well the same. So for those of you that may be watching this video, you may have a baby squirrel, and it may be around this sort of age or a little bit older. It's not going to be too much older, because if it's like 3 weeks older, it's going to be pretty able-bodied and it's going to be climbing around, and albeit it may still be a little bit dependent on mother for a bit of milk, at least during the day it will be on solids, and it will be nibbling on stuff and pretty well fending for itself. So this little critter that I came upon was seemingly about 6 weeks old, and I've had her now for 4 days. This is the 5th day, I believe, and I had one 2 years before, almost the same age, again female grey squirrel, and at that stage I knew nothing about how to care for a squirrel. And so I did an enormous amount of research on the internet, and to my frustration, all I came upon was contradictory information. Barely a single person could agree with the next, to the extent whereby some people advocate only feeding squirrels water and ground or crushed pecan nuts. That's the only thing you should feed a squirrel. Then other people say that you should feed the squirrel kitten milk, and never ever feed your squirrel even the smallest drop of cow's milk, which is poison and will kill them. And you look to yourself and you think, wow, okay, cow's milk, poisonous, that's something. And then you look into why is cow's milk poisonous, and the vast majority can't tell you. Why can't they tell you? Because they've only just copied somebody else. But if you look deeper and deeper and deeper, you will find a very, very few people such as myself, who are advocates for feeding your baby squirrels on scalded cow's milk. That's to say, milk that's been brought almost to the boil, where it's just getting a few bubbles on the surface, and if you blow it, then you can see a thin film of skim forming on the milk. That's scalded, that's perfect. Now what that does, apparently, it kills the enzymes in the milk which would otherwise cause the baby squirrel to have diarrhea. And if the squirrel has diarrhea on an ongoing basis, it's going to be dehydrated, malnourished, and it will die. So what I thought is, okay, there's a lot of nonsense out there, there's a lot of contradictory stuff, and so I applied my rational mind, and I realised that in this day and age there are lots of people who pertain to companies which would spread misinformation just to induce fear, so people are forced into buying their wares. And so without a shadow of doubt, there are people writing stuff on the internet which belong to companies that make these milk formulas, and they will tell you, don't be giving anything else, only our milk. And of course, you know, I think anyone that's reasonably adult is well long in the tooth, starting to realise that anyone who's advocating don't do anything else except what I tell you, well, you need to smell a rat. You really do. And so then I looked at the ingredients, which is in the kitten milk, and it's supposed to be maybe the closest to the milk of a squirrel. And they say the cow's milk doesn't have anything like the nutrients or the protein in, or the fat, which is really needed. It only has a very small percent, where the kitten powder has more, and so on and so forth. And if you are going to give cow's milk, then never give them skim milk, give them full cream milk. So I looked at that and I'm like, well, this kitten milk, of course it's expensive, and there are companies who are most certainly going to be spreading misinformation if they want to force you into that realm. So then I thought, well, let me see if I can find someone with experience who is advocating the scalded milk thing, which is obviously almost free. So I found someone, which wasn't easy, but I found someone, and I found an old school write-up in an old format pertaining from an older person, written some time ago. And this person, it turns out, was, you know, an aged woman and had a lot of experience, maybe 30 years experience with looking after critters and many hundreds of squirrels. And she absolutely swore that scalded milk is perfect. And how would you know if scalded milk is perfect? Well, those that tell you that milk, cow's milk, isn't perfect will tell you that it's going to cause diarrhea and then the animal is going to dehydrate. Well, if you start feeding cow's milk, scalded milk, and the squirrel does get diarrhea, and it doesn't go away after the first or second feces, then you might very well need to start looking for something else. But if the squirrel doesn't have diarrhea and has perfectly normal feces, then you know by the trial and the application of reason, you know that what they've been telling you about the cow's milk induces diarrhea is a lie. It's false. Now, I don't know whether cow's milk, which is just warmed through, which has not been scalded, I don't know whether that would cause diarrhea, because I haven't done that. I've always gone with the scalded milk. But I'm of a mind, when my little critter is a week older and she's strong, I'm going to give her a few syringes of cow's milk which hasn't been scalded, to see if that changes the feces in any shape or form. Now, this isn't a thing that's going to be detrimental to the animal more than a couple of bouts of loose stool, because then if that's the case, then I'll change it back to the scalded milk. I just want to see, but I'm pretty certain if in view of how much rubbish there is out there, that's the milk will be fine, and there won't be a diarrhea, and so therefore then it blows everything out of the water. Once again, that there's so much misinformation on the internet. The other thing that they tell you never to do is give your little critter anything sweet. Well, in another instant, if you're looking into why your animal may be constipated, then the natural remedy, instead of rushing to the vet like they all recommend you to do, if your critter doesn't go poops within 24 hours, you must rush it to the specialist immediately. And if you rush it to the RSPCA, then they'll cull the animal. And if you rush it to a vet, then they'll probably advise that too, and any number of things, because in Great Britain the grey squirrel has been deemed to be vermin when it's the very intelligent and beautiful animal. So you got that fuckery which is going on, which is obviously giving rise to all misinformation and just bring your animal to us, bring them to us, bring them to us. No. And then they tell you, well, if you rear a baby squirrel, you absolutely must not put it back into the wild. I did. I raised a baby squirrel. I kept her in the house for about 1 month until she was so larger than life and healthy and strong and inquisitive that I built a house for her, which I got her used to, sleeping in it while she was in the house, and I nailed that into a tree, and that's where she lived for the next 6 months. And then I built her another one and put it next to it, and then she moved out of that one and went into the bigger one. And then when she had her litter of 3 babies in the tree, I built her a bigger one, and she moved the babies from there into the bigger one. And then from that big one she moved up into an older dray which was built by other squirrels. She refurbished that, and she took her litter when they was you know, about this big, about 10 weeks old. She took them into that dray, and that's where they lived all winter together. Now they've all gone their separate ways, and what it turns out is one of the kids has refurbished that dray which she grew up in partially, and the animal which I brought up, she came to see me every single day for 2 years. Now she's gone away, and I think she's gone away because she had another batch of babies which she didn't want to rear up in the same vicinity as her original babies for interbreeding reasons. So many animals, they have to distance. So she's gone away. I'm pretty sure she'll come back in the winter time when her babies have grown up and food is scarce. So on the internet it says absolutely don't give anything sweet, but then it says, well, if your animal's constipated, well, an animal's an animal and needs a laxative, and laxatives that, you know, are pretty good are things like you know, prune juice and apple juice, you know, citric juices. And so I bought a tin of prunes, and the prunes were in concentrated apple juice, and I give my little squirrel 2 syringes of this, which is 2 ml, so she has 4 ml a day. She absolutely loves this, and so when an animal absolutely loves something, you know that that's what they want and need. Now, in contrast to that level of instinctual familiarity, when I try to place this dishcloth down beneath her, so when she drops the milk from her mouth, it will go on here or not on the couch, she wouldn't even come near this. She just backed away like that because this smelled strange to her. She couldn't recognise what this smell was. It wasn't something that she knew about instinctively, and I can only put that down to the fact that there was a bleach residue in it. So she wouldn't come near that, even though she was starving. As soon as I took that away, she's straight back there. So I give her, in any feeding session, I give her 5 mils of scalded cow's milk, 2 mils here, and then I give her 2 mils with that. So that's 9 mils in total, which is you know, a good feed for an animal which is 7 weeks old. And I've sometimes tried with just a little bit more, and she's not that interested, and then she'll stop. So I know that that is perfect for her. And so within a week's time she'll be on 10 mils, and I think that's where I'll leave it, because it's enough, and I feed her every 2 hours. And what I do is I pour boiling water into here, and I warm the juices through, and then when they've been in there for some 20 seconds, I test that to see the optimum temperature, ensuring that it's not remotely hot for me, it's just warm. Warm milk is perfect, they love the warm milk, so then I feed it to her. And what I've been doing is I've been also crushing 1 pecan nut per day in her milk, and so I cut it very, very finely, and then I squashed it with a broad, sharp knife like this, squashed it onto a chopping board, and spread it out like butter, because it's oily, you see, and then chopped it again to make it as fine as possible, so it goes through the end of the syringe without clogging, because if it clogs, and you push too hard, then you'll build up enormous pressure behind the syringe, and then it will shoot to the back of the throat, and that's going to be a big problem, because if the squirrel inhales that and the milk goes into its lungs, it's going to get infected and it will be in big trouble, and it will need then to go to the vets to get antibiotics for its chest infection. So what I do is I ensure that I absolutely hold the tube very firmly and ensure that I'm only edging very, very slightly with the milk coming out, and so the squirrel is sucking quite furiously because it wants more. If you press it too hard, then she'll get a big gulp and then she'll have a sneeze and that and the other. So you just got to make sure you apply it very, very slightly, because if I was to go like this, now this particular syringe doesn't have any of the pecan nuts in. You can see on the end that there's a residue of them there. But the rest of it doesn't have any of this pecan nut, because I wanted to give her morning just with milk, and so I'm going to introduce those again in the afternoon. And so it's very important that we don't just use the syringe like this, because if we don't have too much control, or the syringe sticks and then you squirt it in, that's a big problem. So you have to be very, very careful about that, people. And so she's on her 5th day now, and for 60 hours she never defecated, and I obviously consider this to be a big problem, but not to the degree whereby I was going to rush to take this animal to a centre which would want to take it from me. No, I used my intelligence, and I thought to myself, well, all animals, I would think, have a tendency to get constipated, and I've never heard of any animals dying from constipation. At some stage it's going to come out, and so I thought, well, I'm going to help that happen, and that's when I started to introduce the juice. And 3 hours after I introduced the juice, then she started to go, and now she's been very regular ever since. Now, the other reason why she wasn't pooping probably was because she'd been out without mother, without any milk at all, for over 24 hours, so her system was absolutely empty. And so, albeit she didn't appear to be overly dehydrated, like symptoms like if you pinch the skin on the back of the neck, it doesn't go down. It's like if you pinch the skin on your hand, if it doesn't go down, then it's dry, isn't it, like in an old person's dehydrated. So she wasn't dehydrated to that extent, but obviously she had no fluids in there for 24 hours, so the dehydration was setting in, and so there was nothing in the stomach, and all the fluids I gave her, her body absorbed. Her body absorbed it because it needed to go back into the system, so that's why it wasn't coming out, in my estimation. And so she started to poop 60 hours after, tentatively, and then about 70 hours after she's in full swing. And so this again flies in the face of what they tell you on the internet. If your critter isn't pooping in 24 hours, rush her immediately to a specialist. No, people, no. Use your mind, and give them something like I've done, prune juice or apple juice, and it's going to come out eventually. There's no two ways. If a critter is drinking 2 of those a day, it's going to stay constipated. And no cat formula. Yes to scalded cow's milk. Contrary to what everybody says, except one person apparently. I've only ever found one person. You look down the whole list on Google and it's like, absolutely not, don't ever give cow's milk, and I'm blowing it all out of the water. I'm absolutely blowing it all out of the water. And you can see my videos with little Gifty, how she's getting along famously, very strong, healthy and happy. And so that is on scalded milk, ladies and gentlemen, scalded cow's milk. So what can we say to all this bullshit on the internet? We can either say it's complete and utter bullshit and everybody's just copying, or it could just be that some squirrels were lactate intolerant. It could just be that once upon a time somebody had a squirrel and it was lactate intolerant or lactose intolerance, whatever you want to call it, and the animal had diarrhea and it was a problem. And so all of a sudden that information went onto the internet, not assuming of the lactose intolerance, but that milk itself was a poison to the animals, and everybody's copied that ever since. Well, I'm about to change that with some people, with intelligent thinking people. And all you need to do is, if you've got a baby critter, by all means buy the formula. I did. I couldn't get hold of the kitten stuff. I went to several places and I could only get the dog stuff. And the dog stuff isn't ideal because apparently it doesn't have the relevant nutrients and fat in it. But I got this before. I thought, well, you know, if it's going to kill this little baby critter, I can't be responsible for that. So I offered my previous squirrel this stuff. She wouldn't even touch it. She sniffed it and she said, I don't fucking want that shit. So again, people, animals, they're very instinctive, they're intuitive. It knew it didn't want that, it wanted the milk, the cow's milk. And so that's what I gave her. She grew up to be a perfect specimen of a squirrel. And we had a relationship for 2 whole years. She would come bounding from the trees. I'd put my arm out like this. She'd jump on me, run up. She'd come and greet me and sniff me and kiss the end of my nose, look in my pockets, you know, where's the nuts, Dad? And I've got all those videos on my channel, on this channel. And so, the scalded cow's milk is one thing. Then the apple juice, prune juice is another thing. Then the feeding them of crushed pecans. You know, pecans are the most nutritious, and if anyone's going to recommend, and they're not, then they're going to say pecan. So if the cow's milk doesn't have the relevant nutrients because it doesn't have the fat content and the appropriate nutrients what a squirrel's milk would naturally have, then you think, well, in that nut, which is one of their staple diets, well, the nutrients must be in there then. So if you then compile that with the milk, then you're giving the animal more than they will be getting probably from the mother. And so that's also been proving to be very beneficial. So caring, because the next thing is with fleas. Now, of course, you've got all different sorts of remedies on the internet, and one of them is white vinegar. And they say mix 50% white vinegar with 50% filtered water. And then you get a bit of cotton wool and you douse the fur all over like that, avoiding the eyes. And so that's what I did. Now, my little critter, she was covered in fleas. And as soon as I started to apply this vinegar, whoo, they're all jumping shit like nobody's business. It was like bonfire night. They were going everywhere, and I was just like squeezing them all and killing them all. And this went on for a couple of days. I doused her every day, let's say for 3 days, until in the end there isn't a single flea on her. And I'm thinking, because it says on the internet that the vinegar will get rid of them because the fleas don't like it, but it won't kill them. It won't kill the eggs. So I'm thinking, okay, I keep a look on her every couple of hours when I'm feeding her. I have a good look on her underbelly, whereas before they were all running around, even the tiniest ones. Now there's nothing there, and I'm like, well, either it's wrong again on the internet and the vinegar does in actual fact kill the larvae, kill the eggs, or the eggs haven't as yet hatched and grown. Well, it's 2 days since there weren't any, and so I'll leave it another day or so to see what happens. And then if no fleas actually hatch, then the vinegar has in actual fact killed them. So again, that flies in the face of everything that it says on the internet. There isn't a single place which says vinegar will kill the fleas. And people use vinegar on dogs, cats and things like that, and birds, lots of things like that, because they don't like the acid. Now, what I did do I phoned up wildlife centres whilst I was doing my research, and I asked what would they recommend as a flea repellent. I asked them for any natural remedies, and of course none of them could recommend a natural remedy, but there was one wildlife centre which recommended this. Now this is a germicidal wound spray with insecticide, and it's for open wounds to stop fungal and parasites and maggots and this, that and the other, but it also is a flea repellent. And so it says, as a fly strike treatment, apply one initial application, blah blah blah. Wound treatment as an insect repellent. Apply 1 or 2 squirts, depending on the size, to the local area of infect and non-inflammation. So this person who looked after animals at the wildlife centre says, put a squirt of this on the back of the neck and rub it in. So if the fleas come back, then that's what I'll do. And then I looked on the internet for more information about this, and they said that it's pretty good and it does actually kill the fleas. So I've got that as a safeguard. And yeah, the vinegar thing, people, I phoned up someone who'd been looking after squirrels for 20 years, this and the other, and I asked about vinegar. No, those people, they're disgusting human beings. You should never put a chemical on the beautiful little creature. And they got all fucking anal about it. And I went like, well, I put it on the fur of my little critter, and she didn't seem phased about it at all. She was not itching, or there's no reaction to it, anything like that. I had a look and all seemed perfect. The fleas were all jumping shit like on the fucking Titanic, and so I thought, well, this seems right to me, and so I continued with it, and it was right. And so what can we say about that, people? What we can say is that you cannot believe a single thing that you will hear from anybody, to be fair. You really can't. You have to rely on your own knowledge and your own experience and your own intuition. And if some of you get a baby squirrel and you don't have any cat formula, and you're not going to be able to get any because the shops are like 25 miles away and this, that and the other, well, just go ahead with the scalded milk. And if there appears to be diarrhea there, then, well, at least you tried that, rather than leaving an animal with an empty stomach, you know. And then if it doesn't have diarrhea, well, it's the way forward, isn't it? You know, it's just a case of trying it. And for 1 feed or 2 feeds, if the animal is not absolutely in a state of dysentery, then, you know, it seems the way forward. And if the animal does, you know, have bad diarrhea, then you stop that immediately. And then, you know, you try to get the kit and stuff. And so, you know, that's all I can say, people, is that I have done this trial and error, and I have actually had 2 experiences of growing up these little critters, and albeit this one's still in the early stages, she's much stronger, she's alive, and she's growing by the day, of course. And she's gulping her meals down every 2 hours. And so it's working for her. Now, you know, I'm not saying that one size fits all, and across all the whole world these animals are going to thrive on scalded cow's milk. You know, there's so many variables in the body and all the rest of the stuff, and you know, you don't know what chemicals are in the milk and this, that and the other. So we just have to see. You know, we have to work things out for ourselves. And so, because I had confidence that the cow's milk absolutely worked first time round, I thought, well, I'm going to go for that the second time round until I'm proved differently. And it's working again. So this is 2 times after 2 times. That's 100% success. And there's no ifs and doubts about it. So with the vinegar is a perfectly healthy remedy. Mix it 50-50 so it's not too acidic, it still does the job. And then with the scalded milk, and then you can add some pecan nuts to the mixture, and you warm them through gently, and way to go. You can have healthy little critters, which you then can put back out into the wild. Now I'm going to be keeping this one until she's strong enough and big enough to go out for herself. Now when my other squirrel, Providence, she was getting big and very animated, I took her out on my shoulder out into the garden to listen to the other squirrels, and you know, she was all very, you know, worried about it, and then she was looking for an opportunity to jump off me, to go into that thing. But I thought, well, she's only tiny at the time, maybe about 10 weeks old, and I think, well, she's only going to get beat up, or I'm not sure if she's going to be able to find foods for herself. So I'll keep her for a little bit longer. So I kept her for a week longer, until then I put her in her house in the tree, and that's where she stayed very happily. And tentatively she started to get along with the other squirrels, which of course were all adult. There was a couple of young ones which were kind of like similar age, which came about a couple of months after, but initially she was the tiniest one on the block. And you know, she didn't know how to interact with other squirrels, obviously, because she hadn't grown up. So it's imperative that you get them back as soon as you possibly can, when they're strong and when you're confident that they're on full solids, that they're eating solids. And then in the springtime, summertime, you know, they're going to fare okay because they can eat all different sorts of stuff, which intuitively they know they can do. But my squirrel, you know, of course she recognised my voice and my face, and she was waiting for me in the trees. You know, for the first whole year she wouldn't go very far at all. She was always hanging around, and as soon as I went into the garden she was there. Her tail was waggling, her head was going to side like this. She was jumping down from whatever branches to try to get down as close, and I put my hand out like this, and then she'd jump on my arm, and then hey presto, she'd be sitting eating out of my hand every day for a year. And then she liked to sit alone on the fence, then she'd jump back, she'd look in the pockets, she'd get a nut, she'd want to sit back on a special place on the fence. She had a special place, and sometimes she'd go this way. No, that wasn't right, she'd have to go that way to eat a nut. You know, these idiosyncrasies. And so, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Some information from my personal experience, who cares a great deal about the animals in my care, and I wouldn't do anything which is going to jeopardize their health. And so this is what is absolutely working 100%, and so I'm sticking to it. And you know, if you ever have a critter, then you might want to try this out also. And as I've said, if you're going to try out the scalded milk thing, well, have the cat milk on hand so you can switch straight away if diarrhea does come about. And other than that, people, cow's milk isn't poison. And so what's poison is all this shit that we get on the internet, to be quite frank.